Hello, sweeties. Hola, welcome to my channel. I go by Mercedes Lens. We're here. We discuss and analyze many different topics. You get a sneak peek through my lens on said topics. We have fun here. So if you're down for that, sit back, relax, grab your ice cream. I have mine. And let's get into this video. So we're gathered here today for another wonderful episode of Divorce Court, where the case revolves all around Jennifer Partridge and Robert Partridge. I have trouble saying their last name, so we're just gonna go with Jennifer, or Jen for short, and Robert or Rob. So a little bit about them. Jennifer is 36. She's a medical coding technician. Robert is 40, and he's a game advisor, and he has 5 children, and they share 4 children together. And this episode is not a before you vows. It's not a save my marriage. It's strictly divorce. Jennifer wants to call it quits. She's ready to go. After 18 years, she wants an out. So Jennifer says that she wants a divorce. After 18 years of being the man and the woman basically in their relationship, she wants out. The judge asks her, what doesn't he do? And she counters with a more appropriate question of, what does he do? It was funny, not gonna lie. So Jennifer starts to give some background on their beginnings. She was 18 when they met, and he was 22. He was a blind date to her prom, and honey, she loved her some Robert. She gets into what she first thought about him when she first saw him. So cute. You can tell that she really loved her some him. She says that he swept her off her feet, and it was her first big relationship, which makes sense. A couple months later, she discovered that he had a wife and a daughter, and it was so funny. Like, when she mentions that, there's this lady behind her that goes buck-eyed. Like, when I tell you she was shocked.
A couple months into it, I found out that, he had a wife, and
the lady behind her was all of us. Like, a couple months later that she finds out that he was married, not only married, but has a baby. And he kind of left them in Ohio, she said. Already all types of red flags. But she admitted that when she was 18, she wasn't really concerned with that. And she constantly admits that at that time, she was young and naive. So a lot of things that she probably would have picked up on now today, back then, she wasn't really too worried about it. So her thought process was, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Judge asks why does she believe that she wears the pants and apron in the relationship. And so she breaks it down. Jen says that she works 40 hours a week, 4 children that she takes care of. On top of that, she cooks, she cleans, she holds it down pretty much, does the homework. And meanwhile, Robert is literally spending the entire day playing video games.
I beg your pardon?
I beg your pardon.
Robert immediately jumps in and says that he has to play video games because it's a part of his job. Then Judge asks him if he brings in any money from this job. And this man says, meh, a little.
I beg your
pardon. Like it was nothing. But we'll get to my thoughts later on, honey. He says, a little. He brings in about 1/3 of the overall income, but he does bring in something, he says. He begins to explain what he does. So he's basically like a reviewer, like how a food critic would review food from different restaurants. That's essentially what he does for video games. Plays them, answers questions, reviews them pretty much. Is it worth the play? How does it play? So then the judge asks him if the big video game companies pay him, and he was like, no, I wish. They don't really even get into that. I don't even think the judge really cares at that point. She has more pressing matters that she wants to know. She asks him if he has to play the games all day in order to give a proper review. His response was that, to be fair, in the beginning, he did tell Jennifer that he was a gamer. He does play games a lot, and so he hopes that she can accept that pretty much. She's 18. What is she gonna say no? But he does also admit that he doesn't have to play the games all day to properly review them. And he is aware that he plays video games way too much. Jennifer did cuts in and says, well, he also had a mullet when she met him, and he grew out of that, which is a very good point. And Judge recognizes that too. And so the judge offers a further explanation on what Jennifer just said, and basically said that he's not growing at all. And so Jennifer further says that when they were younger, when she was 18, him playing video games wasn't a big deal to her because she's freaking 18 and he's 22. So of course she doesn't think that 18 years later he's still doing the same thing, playing video games all day. However, it is 18 years later. She's in her 30s. He's 40. They have 4 kids and a house to run, chores to do, and things like that. So some growth has to happen somewhere. So then the conversation switches over to chores and who does what and everything like that. So with Jennifer's last comment of, they have a house to run, chores to do, and whatnot, Robert jumps in and says that when he tried to do laundry, she got upset because it wasn't up to her standards. And with that assessment, I can totally see that, because I know a lot of women that are that way. In my experience, more so women than men take particular care of how the laundry is done, and Jennifer is no different. And Judge also agrees, like, she can see that happening. However, she said for her, after he didn't get it right the first time, she views it as a teachable moment. And I agree. Instead of getting frustrated with the situation or the fact that he didn't do it right this time, it's a teachable moment. Teach him how to do it right for the next time. That way he can take that over and you can work on something else. Like, it's a balance. So I can't be mad at that. Jennifer admits that she tries to tiptoe around his feelings. So when she said that to me, that read in my mind that he's a little bit sensitive. Not like sensitive as in like gonna cry, but sensitive to the fact that he feels a way about taking some type of correction or criticism.
She's got a point.
And so to me, that's what popped in my head when she said that. But she admits that she tries to tiptoe around his feelings, and then she has tried to mention a few suggestions to not seem so harsh. And so Robert admits that he does have a hard time taking criticism.
I knew it.
Sometimes, because he takes offense when all he's trying to do is help, but apparently he's doing it wrong. And I can understand that as well. Like, if you're constantly being told you're doing something wrong, I can understand how a person could shut down. Then Judge kind of calls him out on that thought process and try to offer some advice to rearrange his thinking from taking offense to, okay, I didn't do it right this time, let me learn so I can do it better next time. Given the fact that Jennifer works 50, 60 hours a week anyway, she's already working, she's already spreading herself thin, and on top of that got 4 kids that she takes care of. The very least he can do when doing the laundry is take heed to her suggestions and be better. Internalize the criticism or the critique, and instead of shutting down, turn it into, let me do better, let me help my wife and do better for next time. So I can get with that. And so Robert does admit that he doesn't like to be corrected, and there's no point if he's just going to get it wrong anyway. Judge is like, this is backwards as
Let me break it down like a fraction.
You're at a job, and if you do something wrong, your boss is going to come to you and tell you how and show you how to do it right. So why is it such a big deal when your wife does it? And his response was, well, my house.
Well.
And honey, why did he say that? It's my house. And that alone tells me his thought process. I don't know 100% that he's okay with criticism, but I know he doesn't like to hear it from his wife. He would be more receptive to taking it from a boss of his or his boss rather than taking critique from his wife in the space where they have to live and run with 4 kids. He doesn't have to live there at the job, but if he does something wrong, he's open to understanding how to fix it, but not in the place that he runs with his partner and 4 kids.
Bombastic side eye. Criminal offensive side eye.
The math ain't math. And so basically, to me, that screamed he feels emasculated. And so Judge was like, your house? Jennifer pays the bills, so what the do you mean?
And
I agree. What do you mean? So much is popping in my head when it comes to him. But we'll move on. The judge was outdone with that response. And so he tries to defend himself with that comment and says that he does offer to pay something. And she brushes him off because basically what he makes is not enough to pay anything. So she's like, well, that's just your money then.
Right.
I don't believe that one bit, but whatever. And so the judge says that, be that as it may, to put his ego aside and try to take the correction in stride to become better rather than be prideful about it because it's coming from his wife. And I agree. Like, sometimes people are respecters of person when it comes to like the messenger. You can get criticism all day from one person, but if it's another person, let alone your wife or a woman, you don't want to hear it, and vice versa. Like, try to have an open mind. Take what you can take, and if you can't, then you keep it pushing, but don't be respecters of person. You might miss out on something very important that you may need because you don't want to hear it from that messenger.
Moving on.
Judge asked him if he contributes to the bills, and so he says like, yeah, whenever Jennifer asks me to, or whenever she needs it.
What did he say?
And the judge was like, what do you mean, bruh? Like, what do you mean she has to ask? She needs it every month. She got 4 kids and a house. Yes, she needs the money that you make every month. She shouldn't have to ask. At this point, to me, I feel like the judge is like already picking up what's happening here. She's picking up what Jennifer's putting down. She's picking up what Robert is putting down. She's not spending too much on the topics at hand because based on his answers, she's like,
Oh, yeah. It's all coming together.
she can just tell, like, she don't need to dive further like she does in other cases, because basically what you see is what you get. And so she just makes sure she's gathering all her information from these different topics before she makes her final rulings. I get it. So anyway, she continues on to say that he needs to be a full participant in the marriage, not just a half participant. You don't just get to give money whenever you feel like it, or whenever you feel like she needs it, or whenever she asks you to. You're in the marriage too. You should be just as responsible too. So take the initiative. And so his response was,
well, that's a two-way street, don't you think, Your Honor?
You thought you ate that?
and Judge was like, yes, it's a two-way street, but she's doing all the driving. He couldn't argue with that. Like, what are you trying to get at? Like, what is your grievance? Like, why do you feel like it's not a two-way street? But we'll get into that. So Judge Toller then moves on to Rob's concern, and he says that Jen is stingy with money and relations. He says that he asks Jen sometimes for a little money, for a little extra help with video games, and like, it's funny because when he starts to explain, he would like giggle. He knows it sounds ridiculous, but you sit there and you ask for it. Like, this to me is screaming he's aware of his bullshit. Like, he's extremely aware. It could either be he's not aware or he just don't give a f. And I'm leaning towards the latter at this point. But I digress. He says that, he asks Jen sometimes for a little extra help with video games or food for like going out to eat and whatnot. And she's like, no, because, she can't afford it. No, he's not allowed to because they can't afford it. And he gets mad.
Why are you mad? Oh, hell no.
The audacity. He legit gets mad. Like, what the f? My goodness. All right. So he legit gets mad because also he complains about how they don't have anything joint together. Like, why would they? Like, why? Why would they have anything joint together at all? And he was like, everything is in her name. Well, yeah. You're not paying anything. You don't have any responsibilities. And he was like, the only thing that is in his name is the cable bill. Well, that's because you need it. You need the high internet. And he further explains that, yes, he needs the internet because not only is he a gamer, but his kids are gamers. And they be playing video games all freaking day, just like him. On top of that, Jennifer works from home. 50, 60 hours a week. She works from home. On top of that, he works as a gamer, retailer, analyzer. Like, so yes, they need a high-speed internet, so he pays for that, and that's like pretty much his only responsibility. Otherwise, everything else is in her name. And then he says that he realizes that his kids shouldn't be spending over 100 hours on video games, but it's better than them getting into trouble on the streets.
What did he say?
I beg your...
Like, that's his justification for how his kids reflect him. Why is that a justification for you? The fact that they're sitting there like you are for 100 hours a week, as you say, playing video games all day, and you feel like because you haven't done anything with yourself in the past 18 years, they're doing the exact same thing that you're doing, and you justify it by saying, well, at least they're not out there in the streets getting into BS. And the way he said it, he barely believes that, but that's what he tells himself to justify how his kids are turning out because because of him, and he's just allowing it. So I'm not accepting that bull crap, and you know what? The judge didn't either. So after that bullshit explanation that he gives, or justification that he gives as to why his kids are sitting down not being active playing video games all day like him, judge responds with, "Are you serious?" Like, yeah, we all asking the same thing, like, are you serious? And so he gonna say yeah, and that's what he did, and he turned out mostly okay. And she was like, "Dude, you in divorce court." And he was like, "I said mostly."
You thought you ate that?
Get the f out of here. You low-key trying to be funny with that remark. And so that triggers the judge told her, and she goes off and reads him for filth. Let me thoroughly tell you what she said. She said, as a community, we're going to be stuck to our video screens. Meanwhile, other countries are going to be advancing and trying to be better as a society. True. And he's teaching his kids nothing but how to consume. How to just sit there and not be physically active and consume something that somebody else made, that somebody else created. She continues and says that he has them looking at their mother who's doing everything. And then she asked him if he has sons or daughters, and he said both. Lord forbid. So then she breaks that down and says, you teaching your daughters that men ain't and he's teaching his sons that they don't have to do anything, and some woman is going to take care of them. Like, what message is that? She continues to read him down and says that he's very lucky. He's in a very lucky situation, because most women won't even put up with him and his that he calls, let alone for 18 years. And so she was like, bad message, bad script, bad mojo, bad karma. And usually what happens with kids that you don't raise right, they never leave, ever. And there will be no one other to blame but yourself. And there will be no one else to blame but him. And he says he knows that it's his fault, but the fact that he knows but doesn't change it is like mind-blowing to me.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
You're aware this whole time. His responses, the way he says things, his mannerisms, like the face expressions, like me just watching as a viewer, this dude is aware. I get sometimes, I watch a lot of these episodes and notice that some people are just not aware of themselves. And I get that. Sometimes you don't know until somebody points it out to you. But he's aware. He's aware. He's been aware this whole time and still does nothing about it. He says it as a matter of fact type of thing. And it bothers me. Why are you okay with that? Why are you complacent? The past 18 years he's been complacent, and he's been allowed to. I don't know this to be true, but in my theory, he's complacent because he was allowed to be complacent even before he met Jennifer. But anyway, like I said, the fact that he knows it and doesn't change it is mind-blowing to me. And he makes it worse by saying that he accepts the blame.
I don't want to hear that.
Because first of all,
like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean you accept? Like, what do you mean you accept the blame? Like, you've accepted it, so now what? You just watch it? That confuses me. That statement I accepted the blame. Okay, and? Like, bruh, hello? And that irritates the judge so much. So where she says, don't accept the blame, take responsibility. Those are two separate concepts. Hell yeah, they are. She said, put the video game down. Go take them somewhere and do something with them. Be an active father and be a part of them progressing rather than regressing. And I agree. Like, why do you just accept it? No. At this point, Judge is so outdone. Like, she's looking at him like he got 5 heads. And like, yeah. Then she looks over to Jennifer and was like, but how did you put up with this for like 18 years? And Jennifer said because he swept her off her feet. And Judge was like, well, that was one hell of a broom. And I agree. It must have been. Jennifer blames her age and how naive she was at the time. So she just soaked it up. Robert cuts in and says that he used to sing to her. And I'm just like, so that's what did it?
And the Rockets, red flag. I'll make up for it now.
He must have been singing like Maxwell, honey, because that will be the only way somebody can make somebody stay for 18 years and not progress like this. You got to be singing like Maxwell, okay? Robert was like, he doesn't even sing anymore. Even that fell by the wayside, and he doesn't know when or why it happened. And Judge says, because it became all about you. when y'all first got together, yeah, you liked her, but then as the years went on, you became self-involved and it became all about you. It wasn't about y'all anymore. He became entitled and selfish. So then they move on to these like cheating allegations or whatever. Jennifer thought that Rob was cheating on her because they had went out on a family trip and he chose to stay behind, and she had a suspicion that he was up to something. She logged into his emails and saw that he was messaging some woman and was like, are you in town yet? So basically he had planned to go meet somebody while Jennifer and the kids were gone.
Disappointed!
And so she confronted him about it and he was apologetic.
And blah, blah, blah.
Robert also admits that he did cheat on her with an ex. Then 6 months later, it was revealed that Jennifer cheated also with his ex-girlfriend. So with the same girl. Oh. Judge was like, huh? Like, so they both cheated on each other with the same girl that happens to be his ex-girlfriend. Judge looked at Jennifer like, what? And Jennifer was like, look, she says that, you know, she doesn't try to justify it. She was like, she know it was wrong. She says that she has trust issues, but it started with him and because he cheated first. So she revenge cheated. Doesn't make it right, but it's what happened and that's why it happened. At this point, you can say he got at least one score because at this whole episode he's been 0-10, right? And instead of letting that point simmer, instead of letting that moment just breathe, this man has the worst timing. I mean, if inability to read a room was a person, it would be this guy. And he says, well,
no, you know why I feel emasculated in my own home.
What?
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, I'm throwing tomato.
You done lost your mind.
So the judge was like, hold up now, don't get it confused. You started it. You hurt her. In fact, you hurt her every day when you don't do anything. That means when you don't do anything, that means that she feels disregarded. She feels like she's not important. She feels like she is of no value to you because you don't do anything to show her otherwise. And I feel that she probably does feel like no of value because he's not even trying to make an effort to do something better, to want something better. And not saying that you can't have a career off video games. Some of the richest people in the world play video games. Shout out to Markiplier. But that's not happening here.
Let me break it down like a fraction.
You're 40 years old and you're not progressing even in that. You're just playing for the sake of playing. You're not bringing in enough. And she was like, to not do anything while you're living with a person that does everything is disrespectful.
Period.
This episode, Judge Toller has so many one-liners.
Moving on.
So he tries to rehabilitate his character by saying that he doesn't just do nothing 24/7. He doesn't clean all the time, but he does clean. And on the day that he works, he likes to relax before he works, which I get that, you know. Especially if you're going in like later on in the afternoon. Yeah, you want to relax in the morning. I get that, right? But he was like, on the days that he works, that's when Jen wants to ask him to like clean the house and wash the dishes and blah blah blah. And Jennifer says like, look, basically in a nutshell, he may like be off all day, but the one day that he's working, oh, he can't clean or anything like that because it's going to ruin his morning if he just cleans because he goes to work later on that day. And mind you, that day he might be working like 3 hours. That's it.
Oh my God, corny, rainbow, tomato, I'm throwing tomato.
So you mean you can't at least knock down these dishes, put them in the dishwasher in the morning, and then maybe relax for the hour before you gotta clock in at your job of playing video games? Judge Toller then asked him the $1 million question of, haven't you emasculated yourself?
And
She's got a point.
And he didn't really have an answer because he says he feels emasculated, but he makes it seem like his wife is doing it. But in reality, he's doing it to himself. The way he responded was like,
well, I guess if you want to see it that way.
woo, that'll do it. You don't have to worry about me. You do not have to worry about me.
What you mean? You're aware of it. Like, this guy is so self-aware of where he is in life. He just doesn't care much. You have to care. You got 4 kids depending on you. You have a family. I can just imagine how she feels. But nonetheless, we're gonna get into this word Judge Toller ends the episode with. She starts off with Rob, is only fitting, right? And tells him that laziness is like a tumor. Another word for tumor is the big C word, right? It starts out on the couch and it seeps into everything else. What you do, what to do, what you need to do, and how you feel about it. Once you're lazy, you become outraged that you even have to do anything at all. And that becomes a magnificent character flaw. He's really upset that he can't do what he wants to do 100% of the time. And that's an issue. And she suggests that for the sake of his kids, that he do some intense emotional chemotherapy to fix that issue, because it's huge. Because kids do what they see and not what you tell them to do. She then looks over to Jennifer and was like, she has to share some of the blame for this situation herself. And Jennifer knows that. She's just been coasting for 18 years. And yeah, I don't doubt that she's at her breaking point, kind of. But, you know, she has to take some of the blame as well as to why and how it got this bad after 18 years. So Judge Toller says that she has to take some of the blame. She shouldn't put up with it. And nagging doesn't work, but insisting does. And she can insist by saying what she needs and refusing to allow it not to happen. She has to say what she's not doing and then don't do it. Follow through. Even if it comes to Jennifer having to cook herself and the kids some food and not do it for him. List what you will and won't do and then follow through. She follows up with a very important quote of, he cannot respect a line that you failed to draw. Every time he did less, she did more. And she's going to have to reverse that. Judge Lynn Toller knows that Jennifer's not going to leave him. They got 4 kids and 18 years behind him. And she knows that even though Jennifer probably should say to hell with him, she's not going to do it. But she says to Robert that he needs to be a better person. So overall, the moral of the story is people only rise to the bar that you set. So make sure you don't set it too low. And with that, that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this, please feel free to come on back. I do this every week. We're going to get into some other content very soon. But if you enjoy this, please feel free to come back. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until we meet again, bye.